a lot of people overrate success too much. Being okay, mediocre is also not bad, right? If you're happy, if you're soulful, if you are really, really contented in your life, it's okay, right? I mean, it's not that you have to be hyper successful and everybody should know you and so on and so forth, right? And when you taste this, right, basically what happens is you go only to a level, right? Then you have to. So I always tell people, when you go up, right, be humble to them. Because when you come down, right, these are the only guys who will really help you, right? To get water or whatever.
That's so true. Yeah.
So being humble, being genuine, understanding your top 2 or 3 priorities in life and work towards it, I'm sure you will not be on track 24/7, right? You will not be on the best shape. You will have your ups and downs. That's part of life.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Let's Talk, the podcast for human skills and mindset. Today's guest, if I would literally say he eats, drinks, and breathes in cybersecurity. Just to give a background of our guest today, he has 16 plus years of experience in cybersecurity engineering with Fortune 500 companies like Symantec, Convergys, Emphasis, Capita, Coforge. His experience spans across banking, financial, telecommunication, and information technology across the globe. Currently, he's the head of cybersecurity in Byju's. It's a learning platform and one of the fastest growing Indian company. He has published 100 plus articles in cybersecurity, author of Fundamentals of Information Security, featured in magazines like Tech Target, CIO, India Review, Computer Weekly, CISO Platform, and US Mortgage Banking. He has impressive 12,000 or more followers on LinkedIn. Not only that, he is also decorated with Dynamic CISO Award, CISO Top 100 Award, and Best Author of the Year Award. Sanil Nadkarni, thank you for your time and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you have done a lot in your career and I have seen, and you got awards, you wrote a book and all. So I'll start with the book here. And for all the viewers, the information about the book would be in the show notes below once we upload this episode. The first thing is you thank your mom. Yeah. And I was pretty intrigued, and obviously I totally understand. But I would like to get your perspective about when you wrote this book and what's your mom role in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. That's quite an interesting question, right? So mom, my mother has always been a pillar, right? So as you say, your day. So your day does not start without if the mom doesn't wake up, right? So it's like that, right? So when the mother wakes up, that's when your actually day starts typically. So she has been a pillar of strength. She was working for almost 2 to 3 decades in a bank while we raised in Mumbai, right? So we had quite a so to call a middle class family, right, from Mumbai, and she used to travel then work and come back for almost 12 to 14 hours a day, and then do all the home chores. And we were a couple of 2 kids, right? So doing that and then taking the homework and then doing a lot of treacherous work throughout the day. So that has been, has stuck in my mind that, the hard work, perseverance, dedication, all of that has come from her. And that kind of inspired me that, I need to write a book, and that requires a lot of hard work too. And second is, helping the community, right? I think that was one of the most cornerstones of inspiration that hit me, was that, somehow she used to help a lot of her community and, help get a job. I mean, those days, a banking worker, right, would somehow get a job through a word of advice or, in kindness. So that helped me write a book that, to give back to the community. So that was quite an inspiration to me. So I think that's the reason I I started with her and it took the flow, basically.
Perfect. Totally agree. I think mother is one of the first person who gave you some insights, the inspiration, and about how to lead your life. And obviously, family members are one of the key people who help you to develop or shape you as a human being.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's great. So let's get started about why cybersecurity. How you get inclined on the security world. Is it something you always would like to? You got introduced something and then it was like, oh, okay, eureka moment. This is the thing which I would like to pursue in my life.
So, what happened was, as you know, right, I started in the tech business early on. So, I was working with AFMC and with the military cantonment area that's pretty heavy in Pune, right? So, I started in contractor for 2 to 3 years. So, I was working with the security folks very closely. Although those days it was AFMC college and, the internal LAN networks and all of that. But that was with the army, so security was of paramount importance. Secondly, what security gave me was a sense of power, right? You can hack into any systems. You would get into any system without being caught, and it gives you some sense of power that you could do what you perhaps want, right, through the systems and network without really touching anything, right? So that was one. And secondly, when I moved into Symantec, which was one of the most pioneer companies in security, and there were a lot of folks who those days, right, CISSP in 2009 and 10, I remember there were only 7,000 to 8,000 CISSP those days. So there were a couple of guys who did in the US, for which I used to talk to them, right? So that kind of inspired me, and I did crack the exam in about 6 or 7 months, right? Those days, almost, I think, 2009. So then that led to another and then led to another. So from there, I moved on to emphasis, managing security for the enterprise. And then it took off, right? And then I did multiple certifications in that space. And security was also, those days, was just picking up the flight, right? It was just at that point of time pretty new. Symantec products were deployed only in few large banks and financial institutions. So we were kind of the front runners who were learning tech plus the security aspect of it. And then now, as we moved on, there were a lot of breaches in the banks and then took attention. Then there were a lot of standards that came into play, right? ISO 27001. And then a lot of companies mushroomed, like the firewall companies, the DLPs and the antiviruses. Earlier, the antiviruses came first. Obviously, then the firewalls came in, IDS, IPS, and all those buzzwords that revolved around the corporate enterprises. And then I shaped off my way. So pretty much over the years, I've worked in all aspects of security, right? It could be, fundamentally, it could be antivirus on the tech side or the governance side, PCI DSS, and doing various certifications. And even on the product, DevOps, DevSecOps, deploying, consulting. I've also built security business in the US, primarily in North America. So I was selling the security business as well and growing that, basically starting from the scratch and building it up. So security, and then then basically contributing, as I said, contributing back to the community, because that's where you came from. So you need to give back. That was the reason why I wrote a book, and then I'll be soon. And anyways, I'm part of the community, so we do help a lot of kids and new generations and the next generation, Gen Z, Gen Y, to be able to make the career. So these are prima facie the reason why and then obviously security is in demand as well, right? Currently, and it will continue to be. So these are some of the reasons that I picked up the career.
That's great. So I would like to highlight that point. You started from saying that the cybersecurity back in the day gave you some power, and then now you are educating the new generation and helping them to understand and educate cybersecurity. So I would like to know that when you entered into the cybersecurity world, you must have, like you mentioned, the power, or you can sneak into any system and all. Maybe it started a bit of a fun thing, adrenaline rush kind of stuff. Over the period of time, as you get matured, you sense that, as we say, right, the greater power comes with great responsibility. So you saw that that can be used in a malicious way as well. People can compromise, and that can have a very wide spectrum on the personal, organizational, or national, or maybe the international, the nation state level as well. So what do you say about that? How your perspective changed from just a wannabe cyber security hacker or getting into that hacking part of the mindset to more on the responsibility side of the house and understanding, safeguarding, and educating the other folks out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think on one side, you know that you've got the power, but as you said, power comes with responsibility, which essentially means that you have to use your energies and powers in a more productive way, right? You can't be swindled into cheating or your propensity of doing that is much higher at that age. But then you have to be responsible, and that's where the value, character, and the culture kind of plays a role in, right? So that's one. So obviously what I did was that, I used the same skills and develop my tenacity to make sure that, I work to help defend the enterprises against these notorious hackers and, guys. And second is also working with the community. So I also work with law enforcement agencies, right? So I'm associated with a lot of them. You might, I have referred some of them in the book as well, right? Some great stalwarts of the industry who work for the nation building as well.
Yep.
So contributing that is also equally important, right? That it's not your house, your company, your state, but your country and the nation as a whole, right? So we collaborate and cohesively work together to be able to build the skills that you have, you put into the right perspective. So that has been one of the skills which I learned over a period of time, right? That using power in a more responsible way. Even today, right, when you are a leader across the org, right, you have to use those skills in a more responsible fashion, right? Because you have power to influence a lot of students and a lot of people across the world, right? But choosing to do that in the right way, in the right spirit is very, very important. So that those are the stuff that I look into.
Perfect. Yep. So as you mentioned that how to utilize those skills in the more appropriate manner, and at the same time letting the people either guide them, mentor them, or coach them to understand the value of what kind of things they are handling, because cybersecurity is also a kind of a mechanism to, I would say it's a kind of a war without the ammunitions, without guns and bombs out there. So we really have to be very cognizant to the fact that people who are learning cybersecurity, they have some sense of social responsibilities as well. So that being said, help us understand your journey from different organizations. Like you climbed through different corporate positions. You have started from the engineering level and then tried to become the Chief Information Security Officer. How that transition happened in terms like what are the key personality traits, or what kind of efforts you made to climb to that ladder? Because there are a lot of people who are very much into the hacking world or a kind of a red team or a blue team kind of stuff, and they always love that. They are totally engrossed in getting into those nitty-gritties. However, learning that and apply to the leadership skills and managing the business and the team, how that transition comes in, or maybe your coach who helped us in that progression. So help us walk through the journey which you had from starting.
Yeah, so the journey has been quite fascinating. One, right? First thing is in terms of mentoring, right? You have to find your own mentor. Now, the mentor can be your manager, can be the leader within your same department, or a lot of time the leaders that could be spread across various other verticals or maybe outside of the company as well. So that's one. So mentor plays a very, very critical role, right? So you have to be submissive to be able to learn, right? And you need to, it's like a mountain, right? I come across, we feel that, hey, you are at a senior position and you know everything, but then you often bump into people that they are mountain of knowledge. You feel really small in front of them, right? And that's how you should learn. So one is finding mentors. You need to keep your eyes, ears open to be able to find the right mentor for you, right? Number one. Number two is the inquisitiveness and the curiosity to learn, right? That has been, like when I was in Symantec, I just saw a black screen and I was fascinated by what it is. And within 6 months, I got certified in the Solaris system, right? The same thing in security. When I got curious that, hey, what is this CISSP and what is this? So in 6-7 months, I tried to crack that and get into that. And similarly, in governance and so many stuff which I did was the curiosity, one. And to be able to have that learning attitude, right? Each day, every day, I spend about an hour or two learning, making sure that I learn new things. Come what may, whatever it is, right? And the learning could not necessarily be security. It could be management. It could be reading a leadership book. It could be possibly learning a guitar or maybe learning a music or whatever, but learning new stuff so that your brains and your neurons keep on firing in new areas, right? And you have perspective of life throughout. It could be politics also, right? It could be a historian book, or it could be a novel. It could be multiple facets of things. So learning in various facets is important to be able to get perspective. I've at least read 18 books on critical thinking, some 35, 40 books on psychology, right? Because then security is also about psychology, right? And then you meet people. So one is, while you go climb up the ladder, there are different skills that you need at certain stage, which is present. And then there are future skills that you need, right? That you also need to develop to be able to reach there from point A to point B. So point A, for example, if I'm an engineer, I need engineering skills, which I have to learn, maybe Solaris, maybe network, maybe security, so on and so forth. But at the next level, if I have to come, then I need people skill. I need communication skill. I need writing skill. I need speaking skill. I need orientation skills, so on and so forth. Now, when you move on the next level, you need customer skills, right? To be able to selling skills. Like when I was kind of learning that, then entrepreneurial skills, I had to develop that. So I got curiosity that, hey, you know what? I want to start business in security. I walked up to my boss, right? And he said, okay, I'll give you a ticket, one-way ticket. You figure it out and come back, right? So I went there. So before that, I did my groundwork. I did collaboration skill, networking skill, communication skill, and entrepreneurial skill. That's one. And then you experiment. As I said, I mean, you either learn, right? If you either success or you will learn anyways, right? There's no, you will not fail. So that is one skill. So present and future skills and various aspects of it, and then continuously learning every single day, right? Now, we are part of the top 1% of the engineering team, right? So our folks are from Microsoft and Google's and throughout the part of world where we have 1% world's best engineering team, right? Which means I have to up my game and learn DevSecOps. I need to, again, relearn what I learned probably 20 years back, right? Because the technology has completely changed. So we have EKS, we have Kubernetes infrastructure, we have completely WAF technologies and application security. So now I've just developed 2 applications, right? One on Node.js, which is a cryptocurrency, and one on the webcam app as we are speaking, right? A similar video cam app I developed. just to
Yeah, I saw
rewire
that.
my coding skills, right? So that's how you continuously learn the next new things. I think that will keep you probably an inch closer to success. While success is again a word that you need to define yourself, right? So
Yes, yes. That's great. So let me just quickly comprehend what you mentioned, because we would like to unwrap. There's a lot of good stuff you mentioned. The last one is success. Success is a very subjective and perspective. What success looks to you may not be success looks by the other person.
yeah,
You mentioned a couple of things I would like to highlight. First, try to be humble. Understand that every person has some sort of skill which you might not have. So always try to seek those skills. Be curious. Reach out to the people. Have a good mentor. Have a good coach. I was reading that even one of the greatest athletes, Michael Jordan, who may not from the outer view need any coach, he does have, at that time he did have a coach. So everyone, whether it's a business coach, it's a personal development coach, or a technical coach, or a mentor, is something everyone should seek, and this is what you mentioned. At the same time, you mentioned that people has to be fluid in terms of learning. You are reading books to create those perspectives. As you climb through the leadership skills, only technical knowledge would not suffice to the overall development. You need the leadership skills. You need the empathy and the psychology part. I'm a big fan of human psychology, because that is applicable anything what you do in your life.
systems are very synchronous, right? They're predictable. Humans are unpredictable. So I think that's
Exactly.
what fascinates me, right? You can still learn
Exactly.
system and code. 1+1 will always be 2, right?
Exactly. Yes, and you read a lot of books out there. So, which is one of your favorite book in these maybe leadership or critical thinking?
So, I was just reading a book. So this is the book that I'm reading right now, right? This is, I don't know if you're able to see this, right?
Yeah.
What the heck do I do with my life, right? This is by Ravi
Yes.
Venkatesan. He was heading Microsoft for many years in India, right? It's one of the recent, I'm a fanboy of this book right now, right? And Bill Gates has given a forward for it. So kind of just completed this book. Really, really fascinating book, right? And second, I'm a very big fan of Ravi Navalkant, right? Who is a great writer, entrepreneur, angel investors. He has written a book, but he's kind of given it for free. Kind of his all, what do you call, Twitterati, all Twitters have been encompassed into one book. So this book has been a great, I think, and it touches exactly what I said, right? It's not the technical skill that will be a differentiator in the future. It's about the attitude, right? For example, learning new things, right? Empathy, right? Curiosity, right? And psychology, understanding people, right? Making sure that you continuously up your game to the next level, right? Yeah. Those attitudes firstly can be measured in an interview, right? And you can't really put that unless and until you kind of work with people, right? So if you really look at this book, right, I mean, this book has really been a clear, fascinating, one of the most fascinating book, and this book really talks about how would you navigate your life in these turbulent times, right? These are turbulent times. So how, because technology is suddenly changing, your inflation rates are going up, there's poverty on one side, there's war on another, there's COVID, there's pandemic, so there's so much of uncertainty, right? So how do you develop clarity in these uncertainty and navigate your life and kind of make it more fulfilling, right? So, and it's not only about making too much of money, but it's about having a contented life, right, that you have. So I would strongly suggest everybody to read this book.
That's great. That's great. I'll also put it as my to read list here.
Yeah, absolutely.
you mentioned about pandemic. You mentioned about reading books and try to think about it. So let me ask you about self-reflection time, which I normally ask a lot of my guests as well. Like, there are a lot of people in this pandemic, they got the life, basically it stopped, and they got too much time to understand or rewind or replenish or whatever you can say their life in to know that what is the right track, am I going on the right path, and try to learn more in terms of what do I want in my life. So what about this self-reflection? Do you spend some time with yourself to understand and kind of see what you would like to go in your life, or what's your mindfulness, meditation, or self-reflection way of recharging yourself?
You see, firstly, pandemic did not give me any time because I was heading the crisis management for the group. And therefore, my responsibility was to make sure, employees are coming into the office, all the sanitization, health worker, making sure the business is up and running, whilst making sure employees are safe, and then kind of getting the entire crew up to have vaccinations and so on and so forth. And there was major severe health concerns. And I also personally developed an app to be able to give, the blood donations and, people who wanted blood donations and so on and so forth, right? At those point of time, develop an app. If you need something, you kind of come to an app and you will get the number, right? It was correlation engine then. So basically it went really in a jiffy, but then whatever time I got, I wrote a book. That's one, right? So really did not get time during those times, but definitely reflections, self-reflections is something that I do almost every week or maybe a lot of time, right? Because I'm kind of an introvert person, so I do reflect. And while reading these books give you that kind of power to be able to, you get that, hey, eureka kind of a moment, and, you really think. So I think, what I've learned, right, over a period of time is that, your perspective towards life, one, changes, right? Every few years, as your role changes, you were youngster, then you become married, you have a different role, then you're a father, your role changes, and you learn, you get different experiences in your life depending upon the circumstances that you were in. So you are in your own journey, right? And you experience different things in your journey, and your obviously perspective changes, right? So when you were very young, you want to make money, you want to be really successful, and so on and so forth. Today, I think pandemic has also taught people, right, more on really finding happiness, right? Being peace with yourself, identifying what is really, really top 2 or 3 priorities in your life, right? Which should be your health, your mental health, your physical health, your family time, and developing your strengths, right? And not getting into the rat race, right? You really be a little different. So it's okay to be who you are. Secondly, I also feel that, a lot of people overrate success too much. Being okay, mediocre is also not bad, right? If you're happy, if you're soulful, if you are really, really contented in your life, it's okay, right? I mean, it's not that you have to be hyper successful and everybody should know you and so on and so forth, right? And when you taste this, right, basically what happens is you go only to a level, right? Then you have to. So I always tell people, when you go up, right, be humble to them. Because when you come down, right, these are the only guys who will really help you, right? To get water or whatever.
That's so true. Yeah.
So being humble, being genuine, understanding your top 2 or 3 priorities in life and work towards it, I'm sure you will not be on track 24/7, right? You will not be on the best shape. You will have your ups and downs. That's part of life. So coming from a mediocre family, right, those culture and those values kind of help you be humble and stuck on the ground, right? Whatever senior position or whatever that you are, it's all about the seat and the position, right? People don't respect you as a person. Mostly the people would be giving a lot of hooks to the chair, right? To the position. So you have to keep that in your head and work towards achieving your few goals, and also giving back to the humanity as well as to the community. I think the more you give to the community, giving back should be your priority, and work towards that. I did not get time, but I think maybe this year I should be able to work on those lines as well.
That's great. So I think two things to highlight in what you mentioned is sometimes people pay more respect to the position of the chair, and you have to change that narrative. You have to make sure that even if you're not in that position, people still respect you, still look up to you, and that depends on you how you treat people. Because as you mentioned that when you go up, you will try to look for the leaders, but life happens, and sometimes the change of life events make you a bit on the backside, and that is the right time when the people whom you have you took help or seek help might help you back. Depends on how you treat people out there. That is
your juniors, right?
Yeah.
Your juniors, or your juniors will eventually become seniors, right? When you will be in the exit door, right? So when you are at the exit door and when you reach 50, right? So it's a red zone, and by the time you are in the red zone, they are in the green zone, right? So they are the guys who will be taking a lot of decisions. So I've personally seen that as well, right? So you be humble with everybody, so that you will always get a lot of help from your own community.
Yes, yeah, and one of the thing which I really liked about you is that you try to create an opportunity in crises. So you mentioned that you created an app for the blood donation. You created
Plasma,
an app for and then you created an app for the video conferencing. So which means that you are keep hustling. You are just keep trying to create one thing on the other. So which is really appreciated. Let's change gear and talk a bit about the things which you have mentioned in your book. And I saw that there were some examples of hackers like Adrian's, Vladimir, and there were other people. You gave some example like how they use cybersecurity on a negative side. They hack systems and siphon a lot of money or the confidential information, and they got some sentence as well from the law. I was wondering, what's your view about people who got some sentence like 6 months, 1 year of ruining the reputation of the organization or person or the nation overall? Do you think that cybersecurity laws still need to be reviewed and reconsidered and create they should be more strict? Because at this time, depends on different countries, people get away and they always have the probability to go back and do those malicious things and those hacking stuff again. So what's your thought about the cybersecurity laws across the world?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the firstly, we need to understand the perimeter is melting, right? There's no perimeter, right? So the hackers create problems without a passport, right? So they can be sitting across any country and can really jeopardize your infrastructure. So there will be a VPN sitting somewhere else. The servers might be in another country, and the payload will coming from another country, right? And the intention of the people will be from other countries. So there are multiple countries which are involved. Those countries might itself be in loggerheads with your own nation, right? So obviously you're not going to support. Obviously the hackers are using those tactics to be able to get away from it, right? So one is that. So it's very difficult unless it's like a billion dollar crime where the Interpol would interject and the global countries and police and economy will work together to be able to solve this problem. So it's a very difficult problem to solve for, because the genuine network that's there, right? It's globally controlled. It's distributed, number one. Number two, laws are so myriad and different. What could be a crime in India may not be a crime in maybe Malaysia, right? Third, the countries are in loggerheads. They are not collaborative. The laws are quite archaic and old. Those needs to be updated. Like India is now coming up with PDP law, where the privacy laws will be re-established, right? Like obviously one country does and the other follows to harmonize. Mostly these laws are harmonizing to each other because nowadays a lot of countries do business with each other, right? Like a Microsoft might be there or Byju's might be there in one country, will be there in a lot of countries. So to have standardized approach. So that's one. What's happening is, people are pretty new to the network, right? If you look at Jio in India, penetrated 70% of the market in 3 years span. So a lot of elderly and children and so on and so forth, which are not quite savvy with the tech, are getting prey to the hackers, right? So the intensity is very high. The laws, now there is another challenge, right? Most of the crimes happen through the tech, but the lawyers and the industry does not understand tech, right? So if you look at the burden of proof or producing the evidences in the court of law is a huge challenge because the people who are in the custody of law would not understand the tech very well, right? So these are some challenges, and I think there should be a global template, right, for cybersecurity in particularly, because the crime could happen across anywhere. It's a very unique thing, as you said, right? You can shoot without a bullet, really without any harm, right? And therefore cyber war would be the next war after this your pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So I think the world should come together, probably the World Health Organization should come together and develop something centrally. Only then you will see a lot of good stuff happening in this space.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's an evolution. It's just right to have a right intent and the leaders of the world come together, because as you mentioned that people are doing these activities on different part of the planet, and every laws are different. So it becomes increasingly difficult and complex to provide any judgment on these adversaries. So now coming to the other section, which is about the skills shortage. You mentioned about in the book is that there's, I think by the end of 2021, it would be around 3.5 million cybersecurity professional gap in the world, or maybe more. And I think with that, Asia Pac region, specifically Japan and India, is leading the chart of they need cybersecurity people, and it's a severe shortage because the number is whopping 3.5 million and above. What's your perspective? How we can kind of shorten this gap and try to hire more and more people, at the same time get the right people and quality, because you also mentioned that we should not dilute the quality of cybersecurity professionals. So what's your perspective on that?
Well, I read my book, right? So I give students, they read my book, right? So that's kind of a marketing strategy. But having said that, this is a deep-rooted issue, and I think one of the number one issues across India, and I think it's across the globe as well, right? Because the major problem is there is a skill shortage. We are hiring, a lot of people are dropping the offer, or maybe we are not able. So I'll tell you what, right? There's humongous amount of dirt of talent available in India, right? There are lakhs of students coming from all the engineering colleges, right? The problem in security today is not in the curriculums. Right? There is no college that is giving degree in InfoSec. I think some of them have recently come up. I've been also approached by some of the colleges to develop some content for them. But yes, it's picking up, like a coding or a networking. All of this is being taught in the colleges, right? So there's no formal degree that's coming up as security. Like Stanford is now coming up with cybersecurity. Some of the leading institutions are now putting their foots on. Number one, right? Number two is, security. Now I'm seeing a lot of fresh engineers, right? Gen Z, Gen Y, really from top good colleges, being able to bring new perspective to security, right? Which is quite fascinating. But these are far and few, and they are already been absorbed by the companies, right? So what about others? I think what others needs to do is they really need to up their game, right? They need to learn. Now, as I was saying, that there is enough content available in the internet, right? Knowledge itself is democratized. You can get knowledge for free on YouTube, right? So go there and learn. One, practice it, right? People have to really learn and practice what is there. And as a community, there is a lot of efforts being put by us at a leadership level to be able to work with communities, with the colleges, with the institution, to be able to produce good content. I'm also working with few institutions which are producing like ISACA or others to be able to help what is the problem on the ground and connecting that to the real lessons, right? Like I remember I got a job in Convergence because I had an understanding of Microsoft systems those days, right? When it was really a need of the hour. So people didn't care about which institutions you come from, while the bigger institutions like Infi and Wipros would take only from reputed colleges, right? So what mattered was the skills that you know. Today, knowledge is available. People should also learn. And as a community, we should work together to have institutions help to create good content, right? Give opportunities for the youngsters to be able to learn. As well as, I also do sessions with the students, right? With the freshers once in a month to be able to guide them and navigate them to be able to be in front runner of security. And also we need to publicize security, right? That there is, I remember back in those days, people were moving more on, and you may remember, right, moving more on the development side and testing sides, and nobody would really go into infra and support and so on and so forth, right? But today, if you see the number of people who are in this space is also pretty huge. And now if you reflect back, right, the people who really went into those space have made really big, even otherwise, right? So I think that kind of approach is required to kind of narrow the gap of skill and the talent.
Great advice. So now coming to the concluding part about the advice. So first, you already have given a lot of feedback on how people should be equipped with cybersecurity, what are the key things to look at. And definitely I will strongly advise people who are new to cybersecurity to read his book, because it's pretty basics to start with, giving different contexts, giving examples, right. And then what are the certifications you need, who should be approaching this, what are the FAQs. I like the aspect that you have some frequently asked questions towards the end of each chapter, which is also remarkable. Now, in terms of I would say the concluding part, I always have two questions in this part. One is how people can contact you. And the second thing is the people who are seeking mentors in you, a mentor in you, what kind of skill set you need, how much they should be prepared before they say, hey, Sanil, I would like you to be my mentor.
Yeah, good question. So there have been a lot, right? A lot of people who kind of, and I give complete credit to their own skill, but I kind of give my 2 cents to be able to help them achieve their own goals, right? And thankfully, and I'm very glad that a lot of them are holding very senior positions in a lot of big companies, right? Because if you know, I was a trainer too, and I forgot about it to write there, but I've trained almost 7 to 8 years, right? Over the weekend, I used to train MCP, CISSP, RCSG, and Linux, and so on and so forth, right? And a lot of my students have, and the unique thing was sort of that, I remember those days, the tech guys would not be very good at communication, and the communication guys would not know tech, right? So I picked up people who knew communication, and I can teach them tech. And a lot of students got a good job and made their way all up, right? So now you remember, right? I mean, the point is communication is a difficult skill set today. Learning a language is more difficult than learning a tech, right? Yeah. So learning C is easier than learning maybe a South Indian language, right? So having said that, I always see people who really, really have the fire in the belly to do something great, right? and push beyond the boundary, because my boss always used to tell me that like a rubber band, right? You will understand its stretching capability till the time the person pulls it to its limit, right? So you will know your limit when really a leader or a mentor pushes you really hard to be able to do that, right? So one is typically the skill set. So to make really big in your career, right, you need to have the fire, and you need to have the right attitude to be able to learn, right? But a lot of people, what happens, they get that one job, let's say a job in Google, then they settle there, right? And then they soon realize that, once the wave comes up and they go down, then you suddenly realize that you're nowhere, right? But if you have those meta skills of life, which is like ever changing, ever learning attitude, and you adapt to change, you're optimistic even when during the crisis. These skills, I think these soft skills, right, which I see in people more than the hard skill, because I have seen myself making people really successful without having any tech skill. And therefore, I made an attempt to write this book even for non-technical. I've spent at least 4 or 5 chapters to make sure that, hey, you know what, non-tech guys can also make it big in security. Like there's a cyber law shortage, risk management, privacy, governance, audit. There are so many jobs mushrooming out of nowhere, right? So all of these were a part of my agenda, was to not let non-technical people feel, lower their self-esteem that, hey, you're non-tech. But I think a lot of non-tech, there are thousands of CISOs who are non-tech as well. So I think if you have those meta skills, I think that's what I see to be able to guide or mentor people.
Yep. And everyone learn. I mean, there's always a starting point. So it's not like everyone born with cybersecurity skills.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry that if I don't know, or a FOMO, that I'm missing out those things. You can start, like today is the day one where you can get started. So that's great advice. And the last thing which I ask about, how people can reach out to you.
Yeah, so I think people can reach out to me is on my email, sanilnadkarni@yahoo.com, my LinkedIn. I think you can just type my name.
Yeah, I can put it. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I have my own website, sanilnadkarni.com. They can reach out to me. So pretty much available. I try and respond within a day or two as my time permits. So people can reach out to me in case if they need any help or, stuck with their career or whatever. And we'll able to help to solve each other's problem, right? So I always feel that, the other person, it's not that, you kind of only take, but you give and take, right? And you take also, I mean, basically you will also learn a lot from the other person also, right? In different aspect of life. So I always, I'll give you an example, a musician, right? So when you learn something from your mentor, music, right, you can really have sense of that passion that the guy teaches, much more than probably I would have towards my work, right? A singer or a musician would be deeply, deeply involved. So that dedication you will learn, you can possibly learn from a musician as well, right? So kind of learning and helping each other is what I would love to do.
Great. So, Sanil Nadkarni, thank you so much for this insightful conversation. And I'm sure many of the viewers and listeners would benefit and start thinking about cybersecurity deeply. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. I had a great time. Thanks a lot. Have a good day, and we'll meet you soon. Thank you.
Sure.